Have you ever wondered why your previous attempts to change your life may have fallen short? Why self-sabotage seems to creep in and disrupt your goals? Well, I have some solutions for you here today to help you break free from those self-imposed limitations once and for all. I want to say a quick little thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring a portion of today's video. If you're new here, my name is Rachel. I'm a nutritionist, I'm a personal trainer, and I'm a wellness coach. And I recently went through a whole big bunch of changes to my life. Now, I didn't actually set out with an intentional timeline, but I feel like this timeline, 6 months, got a lot done and I made a lot of progress. And so I wanted to teach you the structure that I used to actually overhaul everything that was going on. So here's a little brief overview of a few things that I did in that 6-month timeline. I lost 16 kilos, I bought a property, I adjusted my work-life balance to create more free time for myself, and I started learning a new language. Today we're diving deep into the psychology behind self-sabotage, and I wanted to shine a light on some of the secrets to maintaining unwavering consistency on your journey to a new lifestyle. Now, when I've posted little bits of my physical transformation on Instagram, people tend to forget that a physical transformation cannot take place without a mental transformation. It just does not happen. And I'll see comments like, oh, but you looked fine before, or, oh, but I miss the old Rachel. And something that I want to outline as I jump into this is I never approach change out of hate. I never approach change out of punishment. And it saddens me to think that that's most people's first thoughts, because I think that's a lot of people's experience to wanting to change, is wanting to punish themselves to get to a place where they feel like they can feel worthy when they get there. They can feel happy when they get there. And I think we need to hold both of those simultaneously. We need to feel happy and proud of who we are, but we can still want to be better. I strongly suggest finding reasons that expand you into change rather than restricting you and punishing you into being different to who you are. Like, I had a really pivotal moment where I woke up one day and something had just shifted and I wanted to see what I was capable of if I strived for excellence every day. Not perfection, never said perfection, but excellence, and there is a difference. Now, at the end of the video, I'm gonna share some exact things that I implemented. I'm gonna give you links, I'm gonna give you resources, but I think it's really important that we set up the mindset shift to allow this change to happen. The first thing I want you to recognize is that change is not easy and change is not going to happen overnight. Don't wake up the next day as someone who suddenly makes all the right choices, who does things differently to how they were before. Our ego is not going to let that happen. We learn how to do something and that's stuck there. We need to learn new habits, we need to build new connections, and we need to find new pathways. And that takes time. It takes trial, it takes error, it takes making mistakes. What I want you to start by doing is identifying your intrinsic and your extrinsic motivators. You know what you want to do, but why do you want to do it? And answering this question can give us a lot of clarity, and sometimes it can help us refine our goals in a way that actually feels right for us. Embarking on any kind of transformation journey requires a really deep understanding, a really profound understanding on the reasons why we want to make change. For me, I thought it was really important that my path for personal growth wasn't coming from a place of external motivators too much. It didn't rely on other people's thoughts, other people's opinions, but instead it was focused on both intrinsic and extrinsic factors. It fostered a deeply personal desire for expansion and development, that openness. It will feel different when you set a goal that way. This is a stark contrast to the typical approach of seeking change through negative emotions or self-punishment. Having that purpose is going to act like a little beacon for you, even when times feel a little bit tricky. Now, that's not to say that intrinsic is necessarily better than extrinsic. It can feel more powerful, it can feel more personal, but extrinsic can still help you if you want to be healthier, to help your family. Even for me, like, something that fuels me a lot is I want to be the best version of myself, so I can go and I can learn and I can teach more and I can show up as the best version of me to my clients, because that gives me a lot of fulfillment. I think as well, knowing that others see something in you, something that is worth nurturing and something that is worth developing, can fuel your own self-belief. Just quickly, before we keep going, I wanted to say a little thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. They're an all-in-one website builder and host, and I use them to host my blog, Eat, Run, Lift. You can set up any kind of presence that you want on the web with them. You can build a private membership, you can set up a blog, you can build an e-commerce store, even set up a portfolio or a CV. You can bring your vision for your brand to life life with their easy to use templates where you can drag, drop, set up your branding so simply and get everything off the ground in a matter of minutes. So jump in, give it a try. You don't have to fly blind. You can go in and test it out. And then when you decide that you want to publish your website and set it live, use the URL, which I've put on the screen or in the description box, and that will give you a discount off your first purchase. Now for this next bit, I need you to put your blinkers on a little bit. I need you to chase a feeling, not chase what someone else has. I think this is a really powerful approach to shaping your choices and finding fulfillment in your life, because it's your life, it's your journey. It involves recognizing and prioritizing the things that matter the most to you. For me, some words that came to mind when I was thinking, how do I want my life to feel, is peaceful, relaxed, calm, and I wanted to feel a sense of confidence in myself. How my life changed was different to how I thought it would change based on those feelings, but I was chasing the feeling and not looking at what other people had as a way to set up how I wanted to live my life. Because the feelings that you identify, how you want your life to feel, that definitely might not be someone else's goal. So setting up your routines and your habits to mimic theirs won't necessarily have you feeling the way that you want to feel. Shape your life around things that hold personal significance to you. Now we need to map a path and we need to set up the systems to get there. I know all of you know by now, like, you set your goals, you break it down into smaller parts, blah, blah, blah. Everyone knows that. Okay, but what's the actual path to get there? So I built myself a little life planner template, and then I've spent the last week and a half building a blank one that you guys can use as well. So I've called it the Phoenix formula, and I've left it linked in the description box. This formula is going to help you create a clear roadmap. You can of course do this yourself, but I thought I've already got the structure there. I've already got the questions there. I've already got the templates and everything set up. So I'm just going to make that available for you to use as well if you want to, because it's going to ask you some direct actionable questions, and it's going to really get you thinking about what you want to build and what you're going to set up and how this is going to work for you. Set up a path, set up an action plan, set up a map for yourself. If you want to, my template is there for you to use. Now I want you to focus on scalability instead of going at level 100 straight away. I know I mentioned this really briefly in my last video, but it's focusing on patience and focusing on progression. You want to be more active? Okay, cool. Go and tell me, how many steps are you doing per day? Check your iPhone, check your Apple Watch, check your Fitbit, check whatever. Wear a little $10 step tracker if you want to, but how much are you doing right now? Let's say you're only doing 1,000 steps per day. Cool. We're not going to go and do 10,000 steps per day straight off the bat. We're going to do 2,000 a day. We're going to do that for the next few weeks. Once that's easy, once that's mastered, then we're going to do 3,000 steps per day. We're going to build it up a little bit from there, and we're going to make incremental changes over a long period of time. And this is how we make things actually stick, because we're not doing a routine that feels like it belongs to someone else. We're not feeling like we're living someone else's life, or we're not doing things in a performative way because we feel like they're the right things to do. We're making small changes that are focused on improving ourselves and on feeling better over time. We build up tolerance and we build up endurance, and what we're capable of changes over time. We don't wake up one day suddenly a new person who can do all these things. And then as you find passion for it, it becomes easier. And passion is cultivated through consistent action and momentum. Use any areas of messiness or any areas that feel stuck to troubleshoot. There is a reason something is not working, and it could be as simple as you just don't like it. If you're forcing yourself to eat plain chicken and broccoli every day and it's feeling really hard to stick to that, there is a reason it's feeling hard to stick to. It doesn't need to be a huge complicated thing. It literally could just be you don't enjoy that. I know I've mentioned this so many times on my channel, but I'm not a salad girl. I don't like eating a big bowl of cold, wet vegetables. I love warm, hearty foods. I'd rather put together a plate with roasted vegetables and my proteins, or make a big bowl with noodles and chicken or pasta and salmon. I am not someone who is instinctively drawn to just a big bowl of vegetables. That does not appeal to me. It does not satiate me, and it feels really hard to stick to. And outside of just preference, encountering obstacles and setbacks is part of this journey. So I want you to utilize these opportunities as chances for growth. If you haven't seen my last video yet, it's about how to get back on track with things, and I was talking about how to specifically get back on track with your health and fitness journey when you have setbacks, but this will apply to this too. You can use that advice, you can use that information to just changing your own life in general. There's some really good actionable tips in there for you. Instead of becoming discouraged, I want you to embrace the messiness, and I want you to use this as a reason to troubleshoot what is not working for you. In the template I've built, I've also included a whole section on troubleshooting and like what to do if you fall off track, because I've used it a couple of times and you can duplicate it, and every time you run into a problem, I want you to come back, use that to troubleshoot. Having this self-reflective process in place is going to make sure that you can make adjustments, you can learn from your mistakes, and you can refine your approach accordingly. Do a little bit of visualization here, but I really want you to imagine who is the future best version of yourself. Then I want you to make choices based on the choice you think they would make. We are mimicking their behavior, but them isn't an external person, it's that ideal version of you. They've already encountered this obstacle so many times. What are they going to choose? This practice is going to enable you to make decisions based on those feelings that you wanted to achieve, based on that lifestyle that you wanted to have, things that are in line with your desired aspirations. This is going to not only foster self-accountability, but it's going to be really, really empowering for you, because you know you can make the choice because you've already made it. Have you ever considered when you're moving along and you start to see old habits creeping back in, or you start to see yourself self-sabotaging, that your self-sabotage can actually be a reflection of low self-esteem? Because how would you treat yourself if you truly, unconditionally loved and cared for yourself? It wouldn't be with punishment, and it wouldn't be with telling yourself that you're not capable of something. Self-sabotage can be a really significant barrier to your personal growth and development. And maybe you haven't connected these two before, but if you think about it, low self-esteem is characterized by persistent negative evaluation of yourself, and then a lack of confidence in your abilities and in yourself. Because you might just think low self-confidence is like, oh, I don't like how I look in the mirror today, but it extends. It is so much more than that. And this is deeply rooted, and it's going to impact so many elements of your life. When people have low self-esteem, and this is something that I encounter a lot as a coach, or we see these behaviors pop up, they often develop self-sabotaging behaviors as a defense mechanism, or a subconscious attempt to validate that negative belief that they hold of themselves. These things can manifest as self-imposed limitations, procrastination, having an actual fear of success or what your life will look like if you get these things that you've been desiring, because maybe you feel like you don't deserve them. Self-criticism, particularly very, very negative self-talk, and then there's a tendency to undermine your own achievements. It just creates this really vicious cycle that reconfirms that negative perception that you hold of yourself. It becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy where you think you're this kind of person, so you do the actions to align with that. So what I need you to do to start to break free from this is learning to cultivate, even if we can't get to self-love, let's find a place where we're neutral. Treat yourself with a little bit more kindness, a little bit more compassion, and a little bit more respect. Then what I want you to do as you move through this journey is check back in if these choices align with those feelings that you set up for yourself. And I've set up a way that you can do this in my template as well. So I want you to reflect on those feelings. Whether you get the template or not, you can do this. So reflecting on those feelings. Regularly check in with yourself to see if those choices align with the feelings that you want to experience in your life. Your actions contributing to desired emotions like happiness, peace, fulfillment, confidence, using mine as an example. If not, consider alternative choices that might better align with the feelings that you do want to cultivate instead. Now, I said I would tell you about the things that I actually implemented. So let me run through exactly what I did to make all those changes, to start learning the new language, to have more time, to buy a property, to lose 16 kilos without a great amount of effort. And there were more things and more changes that happened, but like those are probably the biggest highlights for me. First thing I did was build that formula roadmap, which is why I decided to build it out, and you can have that blank copy if you want it. Next thing I did is I made a really intentional choice to meditate every single day. I didn't care if it was only 1 minute. Like some days you just don't have the mental capacity, but those are the days that you probably need it the most. So even if it was only 1 minute some days, that's fine. I still did it anyway. Other days might be 2 minutes, might be 3 minutes. And sometimes I was feeling like really good and really in alignment with it. And so I would jump on Coach Hannah, who runs meditation calls for my Eat, Run, Lift coaching. She does longer meditations. Some of them go for 30 minutes. And I would sometimes just go and watch a recording and do one of hers. It's all about what you have the capacity to do that day. We're aiming for excellence. We're not aiming for perfection. We're doing what we're capable of doing. We're giving our best self that day without punishing ourselves if we can't reach the same level that we reached yesterday. Then I really focused on eating nourishing food. I focused on having a good balance, but focusing on nourishing foods that I know were going to help me feel good. Really getting my hydration in, really making sure that there were a variety of different like nutrients and minerals and high quality protein in my diet, because I know when I eat well, I feel well. I listen to audiobooks every week, not necessarily every day, but every week I had an audiobook that I was listening to. Let me go through and I'll tell you the actual ones that I listened to. So some of them I've listened to before, but I thought it was worth listening to them again. So I listened to High Performance Habits by Berger, Contagious by Jonah Berger, Stop Fixing Yourself by Anthony Mello, Rest by Alex Soo-Jung Kim Pang, The Good Enough Job by Simone Stolzoff, and Indistractable by Eyal and Julie Lee. Now this next one might sound a little bit weird to you. All of my friends have been like, oh, what the hell, Rachel, when I mentioned it to them, but something that I actively did, not every night, but probably 3 or 4 nights per week, was listen to subliminal messaging. I'll put some links in the description box to the ones that I actually used, but I used it as a way to tap into my subconscious, to start to rewrite some of the limiting beliefs that I did have, to find a more secure attachment style instead of being like a disorganized attachment, to create more confidence, to feel better about my choices, to just bring more like joy and peace into my general thought process throughout the day. I didn't listen to tons and tons. There was probably like 3 or maybe 4 that I listened to really regularly, and now I'll still pop one on every now and again, but that's usually only like once a week. Also adopted the mentality of accepting the fact there would be some boredom. Remember, we're focusing on rituals, we're focusing on routines, we're focusing on habits, not necessarily that long-term goal, that long-term outcome. Like I said at the very start, I didn't go into this going, oh, I'm gonna spend 6 months doing this. I just want to change. I just want to see what I'm capable of. I set some goals, and yeah, I set some dates as milestones, but I didn't go in with this like hard and heavy rule of like what needed to be done by when, because I think this journey is never over. It's something that you just keep chipping away at for a really long time. So I accepted the fact there would be some boredom in the process. There would be some monotony. There would be some days where I'm like, I don't want to do a meditation today. That's the day that I'd do a short version. There'd be days where I'd be like, oh, I'm a little bit bored of these meals, so I'd find a way to simplify. Maybe it meant I ate protein oats twice that day because I really like having them. It's, again, we're not being perfect. We're just aiming for excellence. I also really focused on asking myself why behind when I was doing something. If I had a busy work day and I wanted to like order dinner instead of cooking something, I'd be like, okay, well, why do you actually want to do this? I had to tap into what are my emotions, and it takes me a lot of like mental resources to tap into how I'm actually feeling about something. So I had to start asking myself questions why. Like, okay, well, if you want to have something, are we using it to self-soothe? If we want to have something, are we using it as a reward for having a good day? Even when it came to making financial decisions, because I had to store away a lot of money because I wanted to put down like a good deposit when I was purchasing a property, especially being self-employed, that's like a whole other thing. So if I wanted to spend money, why do we want to spend money? Again, is that a reward, or do you actually like want this thing? Do you need this thing, or can we better put that money into something else? Can we have that longer term vision? So stepping away from that immediate gratification and looking for the long-term goals, the long-term things that we want to achieve instead. I hope some of this is actionable and useful for you. This is just my experience with how I shifted a big part of my lifestyle, and I hope you can apply some of these. Look after yourself. I'll see you soon.